Good evening from the KTN News Center here in Nairobi, and many thanks for joining us. It is Wednesday, the 16th of July 2014. Welcome to the program. This is KTN Prime.
Let's look at the top stories. The Coalition for Reforms and Democracy Principles are alleging that there is a scheme by the government to use the law on treason against them.
The court leaders quoted a letter by the head of public service, Joseph Kinyua, to Solicitor General Nje Muturi seeking advice on the application of the law on treason over political incitement.
Now, although we cannot publish the full contents of the letter due to legal restrictions on state secrets, the court team explained to the media what they think the letter means. KTN senior reporter Rita Tinina has the story.
Since CORD kicked off a series of rallies in the build-up to Sabasaba, some leaders have been on the spot over their utterances at the rallies. Several leaders, among them Machakos Senator Johnston Muthama, have recorded statements with the police over hate speech. Now, the coalition's principals claim the government has a bigger scheme.
The letter demonstrates the desire and scheme of the Jubilee administration to use the law of treason to achieve political objectives.
The letter, which CORD availed to the press, is dated the 24th of June and was written by the Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service, Joseph Kinyua, to Solicitor General Nje Muturi and is copied to Attorney General Professor Githu Muigai. It was written a day after the National Security Advisory Committee held a meeting.
NSAC recommended the following. It's a recommendation, very definite, on the issue of political incitement. The Solicitor General State Law Office to advise NSAC on the application of the law on treason in relation to political incitement aimed at taking over power through unconstitutional means.
According to CORD, the letter also asks the Solicitor General, the Inspector General of Police, and the Director of Criminal Investigations to facilitate the protection of key witnesses following the Mpeketoni attacks.
This letter is a clearest indication that the Jubilee administration wants to arrest and detain the leaders of CORD on charges that have no basis under our constitution.
The law on sedition was repealed in 1997, but the law on treason is still in force. According to the Penal Code, treason is punishable by death.
The Jubilee regime cannot be allowed to take Kenya back to the dark old days where state terror was directed against patriotic Kenyans who are struggling against dictatorship and injustice in the name of state security.
Court leaders say the fact that the application of the law on treason was discussed by the National Security Advisory Committee is an indication that arresting and detaining some of them is something the government is considering. The Solicitor General Nje Muturi has told the Standard that he cannot comment on the contents of the letter because he has not seen it yet. Rita Tinina, KTN.
Well, now, just days after the police recruitment exercise, an independent police oversight authority now wants the National Police Service to repeat the exercise following claims of corruption and bias. And as KTN's Ian Wafula now tells us, the exercise led to a number of protests across the country.
24-year-old Aaron Mutua checks in at the Standard Group Center, holding so dearly all his certificates, evidence of years of hard work and training to join the Kenya Police Force. Aaron left Matungulu to seek intervention after he failed to make it to the police recruitment finalists for reasons he believes were malice.
So, when we were divided into divisions, being the best candidate in Chanzavin division, I was not considered.
Aaron had qualified at every category until he took part in the running competition, where he emerged 15th out of all the 80 participants. However, he says a gut feeling told him that there was mischief among the officers in charge.
Naona njino moja nikatolewa nje. Kutoka nje nikamwambia sijawahi ng'oa njino, wakaniangalia tena nikarudishwa laini. Kitu ya pili, mwisho waliniambia uko na matege. Utaendelea kuona hatutaendelea uko na matege.
Similar complaints have been received across the country during the exercise that was targeting to recruit 10,000 people into the system. In West Pokot and Meru, for instance, business came to a standstill after residents took to the streets to protest against what they described as an unfair process, with a section of them claiming that those recruited were not from the given sub-counties.
Watoto wetu walikimbia wakuja wakiwa number 1, lakini kwa sababu hawakuwa na pesa saa 8 usiku wakafukuzwa, wale wenye wako na pesa wakawekwa.
The chairperson of the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, Macharia Njeru, says the entire process should be repeated to ensure it's free and fair.
We cannot allow, under any stretch of imagination, officers whose appointment, whose recruitment in itself was corrupt-driven. It has to be clean. That's the only way we can do to achieve, the cleanup in the National Police Service. That's why we are saying, let us admit that there has been a problem.
Aaron, just like thousands of other applicants, welcomes calls by the Independent Policy Oversight Authority to have this year's police recruitment drive repeated. And as he waits for the way forward, he is confident that he was among the finalists. Ian Wafula, KTN at the Standard Group Center.
Ian Wafula there telling the frustrations of a 24-year-old. That story forms the basis of our big question tonight. We're asking you if you think the police recruitment exercise should be done afresh.
Indeed, engage us. The number is 22155. Tell us what you think. SMS your yes or no response plus a brief comment. We shall be sampling those views during this live newscast. Our social media platforms: Twitter at Ben_Kitili, at Linda Ogutu, and at KTN Kenya.
Now, Kenyan women hoping to be ordained bishops in the Anglican Church will have to wait. The Anglican Church of Kenya has distanced itself from the legislation by the church in England allowing women to become bishops. Anglican Archbishop Eliud Wabukala says the Kenyan Church is not under pressure to apply a similar legislation in Kenya, adding that the church's constitution as it is only qualifies men to be bishops. KTN's Sharon Momanyi has the details.
On Monday, the Church of England, which is the mother church of Anglican churches in the world, passed a vote allowing female bishops, thereby ending a 500-year ban on ordaining women. But in declaring the Anglican Church of Kenya's stand regarding the regulation, Archbishop Eliud Wabukala stated that they are an autonomous church and will not take up this legislation.
The Anglican Communion has got about 38 provinces, and all of them are autonomous. We have our constitutions that guide us at our various provinces.
So they are not bound to, but do they agree with the spirit of the new legislation?
What has happened in England is for the Church of England as a province, and it does not in any way bind any other province.
The debate on the place of women in church leadership is one that is met with varying theological arguments from both religious leaders and the faithful, with different interpretations of the Bible.
Hata katika the book of Timothy kuna mahali maandiko inasema, Paulo anasema ya kwamba na wanawake waketi chini wasiongee wakati wanaume wanaongea, lakini Paulo hajasema ya kwamba wanawake wasifanye nini, wasihubiri.
There's nothing wrong with women being made bishops, because even in the Bible we have a lady called Deborah who was made a judge to the children of Israel.
Some citizens, however, agree with the church's decision not to comply, saying it is not scriptural.
Wale walikuwa 12 disciples hakuwa mwanamke, na kama angekuwa mwanamke ndani hata tungeingiza, lakini sasa tutafuata ile ambayo tunafuata kwa Biblia.
Tusifuate mkondo wa magharibi, tusimame na haki na zile maoni za kitambo za kibiblia.
Our constitution on the ministry, clause 4 and 5. There is a clear demarcation between the work of a bishop and that of a priest. In clause 4, a bishop is referred to exclusively as male, while in clause 5, which deals with the priests, the constitution recognizes that the holder of such an office could be male or female.
The Church of England had earlier in the year announced that it would embrace gay marriage, a move that the Kenyan Anglican Church vehemently distanced itself from. Not the first time that the Anglican Church of Kenya has differed with legislations from other Anglican provinces. They say they're not under pressure, religious, social or otherwise, to have women bishops yet. A decision that has been met by mixed reactions from both citizens and faithfuls. Sharon Momanyi, KTN, Nairobi.
interesting development. Sharon will be keeping an eye on that for you. Now, to a story that has shocked the county of Kisumu. A young family in Kisumu's Nyalenda slums has been left wringing their hands in defeat after kidnappers who took their daughter demanded to be given another baby with albinism as ransom.
Now, the parents who have tried all avenues since December to get their child back have received several calls from different people who claim to be the kidnappers. Fredo Mulo brings us this story.
For Nicholas Otieno and Helen Anyango, life couldn't be more cruel. On December 30th last year, their 3-year-old daughter Florence Adhiambo, whom they nicknamed Riziki, was playing with 5 friends a few meters from the house. A woman dressed in a buibui approached the group, picked their child and gave the rest some money to buy her mangoes. When they came back, Riziki was nowhere to be seen. It is then that things took a turn for the bizarre.
Wenye washakuwa wakitupigia simu wakisema ati mtoto wetu wanao wao na Kenya wanahitaji ni shilingi 1500. Kama tuwezi kupata haya yote tuwapatilie mtoto albino, alafu watatupatia mtoto wetu bila malipo yoyote.
One group claimed they were calling from Oyugis, while another asked the couple to meet them in Kitale. The police approached the issue rather casually, advising them to accede to the kidnappers' demands the next time they called. Efforts to have the suspects in the neighborhood questioned also proved fruitless.
Nawaambia tu wenye wanatazama saizi kama kuna mtu mwenye shaiona huyo mtoto mahali atupigie simu ama report kwa polisi. Kwa sababu akijiweka mahali niko saizi situation yenye napitia nimeumia sana.
Despite suspecting some of their relatives and friends of involvement, police have not questioned these individuals, the amount of information implicating them notwithstanding. A few weeks ago, someone called Nicholas and told him his child had been sold.
Sasa pia kuna wenye wanatusumbua na simu. Walitupigia ati wamejua mahali mtoto alipelekwa. Sasa kuwapigia ati watupeleke wanataka 4000 kwanza ndio wakuje. Tuna message nyingine pia mtu alitumanisha ati niwache kupoteza wakati kutafuta mtoto. Mtoto alishauza na waliuza bei mzuri ati anatoka hapa Nyalenda.
For now, the couple can only hope for the best while fearing the worst. Fredo Mulo, KTN Prime, Kisumu City.
In other news, a tuberculosis patient is said to spend a month behind bars after a court ordered that he be remanded in order to undergo treatment. The measures were taken after the man failed to adhere to the treatment. KTN's Wilkis Tanyabo reports.
Michael Mburu Kamau will be spending the next 30 days in prison. His crime, failure to adhere to the treatment for tuberculosis. A Kajiado court ordered that Michael, a tuberculosis patient, should be held at the Kitengela GK prison for a month to allow for treatment and recovery. The Kajiado magistrate Evans Mbisha gave the orders for Michael's confinement after the Kajiado East Disease Surveillance Officer Eliud Mburu made an application to the court to have him confined for failing to adhere to medical treatment due to alcoholism. The medical officer said the patient could spread TB to children and others because he had failed to take drugs since March.
Tena kurudi maneno, mimi mwenyewe bado nataka kuregeshwa tena ndani. Naregeshwa wapi? Kwa nini? Sijakataa kukunywa dawa hata moja.
A number of patients suffering tuberculosis are likely to stop taking their medication once they feel they have regained their strength, especially as the course of treatment lasts for months. However, defaulting can have serious consequences. Safeguarding the safety of others is deemed to supersede an individual's right to comfort. The Kitengela magistrate directed that the case be mentioned after 1 month. Wilkis Anyabo, KTN.
Now, the discovery of the 1 billion shillings worth of heroin in a detained ship in Mombasa this week has triggered a myriad of questions relating to the drug fight in Kenya. Whereas the weight of large tranches of drugs and the street value remain in the news for years, the real drug barons behind the trafficking syndicates never seem to come out. So, where's the focus of the anti-narcotics drug team? KTN's Edith Kimani reports.
The MV Amin Daria has drawn much attention from authorities in the country, and it should. In the 2 weeks it has been detained at the Mombasa port, police have recovered hidden within it about 342 kilograms of heroin. The bags proudly displayed as a sign of victory in the war on drugs. But is this enough?
It's better we change our strategy. Instead of fighting drug abuse or drug users, let us start fighting the drug traffickers.
But the traffickers have largely remained amorphous. The 9 sailors who were found on board the heroin-packed ship have been charged in a Mombasa court. But critics say their arrest will do little to deter the drug barons who head these operations. So brazen are the drug tycoons that they dared sail the same waters Indian dhow Al Aziza was on in April before it was seized by the Australian Naval Forces with 1 ton of heroin.
Considering the 2 incidents, it shows that Mombasa has become it's a hub of drugs in East Africa.
NACADA data, however, suggests that it is the business of trafficking rather than distribution that is big in Kenya. NACADA figures from Mombasa and Malindi counties, estimated to hold the largest number of drug users, show that heroin and cocaine use is still at less than 2%.
This shows that the war is against drug or drug abuse, but not against drug trafficking, because we've never had any trafficker being caught.
With no information on where the ship came from or where it was headed, and with the only English-speaking sailor mysteriously dying, investigators have their work cut out for them, with observers saying that unless they arrest the big players in the drug trade, these massive drug hauls will keep finding their way to the Kenyan shores. Edith Kimani, KTN.
Key questions indeed. Now, members of the National Assembly's Public Investments Committee today expressed concern that they may have been duped to endorse the controversial standard gauge railway from Mombasa to Nairobi. This was after it emerged that a consortium of 3 Chinese firms that have been awarded the tender to supervise the design and construction of the railway are related to the main contractor, that is the China Road and Bridge Corporation. And as KTN's Patrick Omimono tells us, PIC now says Kenyan taxpayers will not get value for money because of the conflict of interest in the railway deal.
It would seem the controversy surrounding construction of the 609-kilometer standard gauge rail line from Mombasa to Nairobi is far from over. The National Assembly's Public Investments Committee wanted Transport Ministry to clarify how 3 Chinese companies, TSDI, APEC and EDON, entered into a consortium agreement to survey, design and supervise construction of the railway, yet TSDI was the only one that won the tender.
Look at it, it's part of this, where the 3 firms have bidded as one consortium.
This point in time, no bid had been received by the corporation. Parties were still consulting.
The House Committee said the ministry never carried out due diligence and that there was conflict of interest between the contractor, China Road and Bridges Corporation, and TSDI, which won consultancy to supervise construction.
Can you now tell this committee that there is a conflict of interest between the 2 institutions, from the constructor and the supervisor?
Based on the information provided, the ministry is of the view that the procurement process was carried out in compliance with the law.
SASAC, for information, supervises both CPRC and TSDI. That is the first function.
Chinese companies are fighting vicious battles in this country.
The issue of conflict of interest is not properly and adequately being addressed, because I can foresee a situation whereby we shall either have a substandard railway, we shall have a railway that will not be able to give Kenyans value for money.
As part of that recommendation of the report was that there must be an independent consultant. It informs the committee whatever took place was in total disregard of the decision of the entire parliament.
The supervision in chief is Kenya Railways.
So here is a scenario where the same company has carried out the feasibility study, the same company is the contractor, the same company now has sourced for its own consultants from really in the true spirit of the people of Kenya, really serious.
This is a project which is actually smearing our name, because when we presented the report, a lot of people are asking us, members of the public, did you actually approve that thing where the contractor was actually the one who carried out the feasibility study?
At one time, tempers flared.
EPC contracts unless no EPC, please, Mr. Chairman, excuse me, and let's not get.
Can we allow him?
Mr. Chairman, excuse me. I have never spoken this way, but I think I want to. Don't tell me to stop being arrogant, please. Mr. Chairman, I seek your protection that I don't get sanctions.
Members of the National Assembly's Public Investments Committee have been left with a sour taste in their mouth after they realized that their recommendation to have an independent consultant supervise the project has been overtaken by events. Patrick Amimo, KTN, Nairobi.
Now, anti-riot police had to step in to quell skirmishes this morning as Matatu operators from Nairobi's Buruburu estate clashed with those from Umoja in a fight over route allocation.
Matatu operators from Buruburu Sacco claim they are experiencing losses daily as a result of Matatus from Umoina Sacco plying the Buruburu route originally designated for the number 58 Matatus only.
They say the Sacco should strictly use the outer ring road to ferry their passengers instead of the Buruburu route.
Wasikie vile umeongea. Kama welfare magari ya Umoina inakuja kupitia hapa katikati. Ina Nairobi hapa hata kidogo. Naona inafaa kupita outer ring, Donholm, Jogoro town. Sio Buruburu ndani.
Got the two circles together. They are at the police station now. We are going to sit down with them so that we can solve the matter.
Well, the country has made notable progress towards achieving Vision 2030, close to 6 years since it was unveiled in 2008.
Speaking in Kabarak during the ongoing 4th Annual International Research Conference, former Permanent Secretary and the Minister of Planning, Dr. Edward Sambili, said a lot of what had been targeted in the vision has been implemented.
Some of the sectors say to have seen improvement include infrastructure, energy, airports, business environment, among others.
Sambili, however, said that the greatest challenge was in strengthening linkages of researchers and innovators with industry.
He mentioned devolution of some sectors that were under the national government, like lands, as some of the major challenges in implementing what is in Vision 2030.
The other one was research, development, and commercialization of innovations. As a strategy, we said we need to focus on research, development, and commercialization of innovations. That indeed innovations are coming up, but they are not going to the next level. That is in terms of becoming commercially, rolled out. Kenya is famous for coming up with good plans, but sometimes we have a very strong inertia in implementation. So I'm saying that unless Kenya must overcome its traditional implementation in inertia, or else we'll be left behind by competitor economies.
Let's now move over to a story that will definitely not hasten the implementation of Vision 2030. Now, despite the recent string of deaths from illicit alcohol in several parts of the country, the spirit of those who love the sip in the western part of Kenya appears not to have been shaken. KTN's Francis Ontomo visited the dens of Majengo in Vihiga County and filed the following report.
Amid morning disco, dancing rhythmically under the influence, this young man has had one too many already, and fellow brothers in consumption have come in handy and forced him to drink milk to regain consciousness. Here they drink just anything from anywhere as long as it gets them sky high.
Kila siku mwezi yanze iishe mwaka na ndio hiyo bado sisi ni walevi tu huwa tunakunywa. Kwa hivyo sijaiona shida ya pombe ya Western.
Busa joints still offer an alternative for low-income earners. Stashed deep in villages, they are big business. Here, hygiene is clearly a real concern, but these men would rather die than miss out on their favored pastime.
Labda hiyo ni labda kama mtu amekuwekea ndani sumu ama kitu kingine ndio kuta kama mko kwa baa ama watu kuja waweke ndani madawa ndio mkufe, lakini sasa sijai hiyo ndio unakuta wanatangaza kwa redio nasema pombe imeua mahali fulani watu, lakini mimi sijaona hiyo.
And to authenticate operations, some brewers have decided to take necessary measures to stave off calamities. Jazim Distillers in Ikolomani constituencies has been in the business of manufacturing spirits for quite some time now. Due to changing times and because of operating in rural setting, they have had to go an extra mile. The distillery is licensed and locals appear to love it here.
Tumeshaonja kwa pombe yetu, sio mbaya, ni mzuri.
There might be a misconception of some sort that our product may have affected people, but I want to put it clear that our products are very safe and they will continue to be safe.
The Alcoholic Drinks Control Act 2010 spells out tough rules on the manufacture and sale of liquor, but the enforcement appear to have gone south. Authorities still grapple with teething problems in implementation. In the last week, several deaths have been registered in parts of the country, and things are taking a chilling trend. Francis Otomwa, KTN Prime, Majengo, Vihiga County.
This is Business. My name is Boni Tunya. Housing Finance has announced plans to set up a holding company to enable it diversify its product line. Regarded primarily as a mortgage lender, Housing Finance has harbored ambitions to offer more commercial banking services as banks also cannibalize on its market. The news comes as the lender announced a 19% growth in net profit for the first half of the year.
For years, Housing Finance has prided itself as the premier mortgage financing bank in the Kenyan market. However, its place has often been challenged by other players in the industry keen to take a slice of Kenya's growing homeowners. It is for this reason that Housing Finance is seeking to come out of its comfort zone with new products as competition gets stiff. In a statement to Newsroom, Housing Finance Managing Director Frankie Reri says the non-trading holding company will help the lender grow its non-interest income and open up new business lines.
For us, the focus is just on keeping ahead of the game, especially in the areas of product innovation, and constantly getting to understand our targeted customer needs and coming up with solutions to help meet those needs.
During the 6-month period, Housing Finance posted 474.4 million shillings in net profit, driven mainly by growth in non-interest income that stood at 506.3 million shillings. This was as a result of growth in the firm's insurance and building subsidiaries. Total interest income during the period stood at 2.9 billion shillings. Already the lender has introduced forex asset financing, which added 17 million shillings to its non-interest income and current account products. Customer deposits grew to 27.66 billion shillings during the period under review. Loans and advances to customers increased by 19% to 38.8 billion shillings, up from 32.47 billion shillings in 2013. The group is now shifting its focus on growing deposits from saving accounts and current accounts to reduce reliance on expensive corporate deposits that have weighed down on interest margins. The board of directors has recommended a 75-cent interim dividend. Michael Karanja, KTN Business.
Well, the government is seeking to create an equitable system that will see farmers get their rightful dues. Years of being exploited by middlemen has seen many disgruntled farmers consider giving up on farming, something that would be detrimental to the efforts to increase food security in the country. The new system will boost food price stability while also encouraging output. Here is Adelaide Changole.
While Kenya's agricultural sector is a $10 billion industry, some farmers are among the poorest people in the society. Choked by high production costs and limited access to credit, farmers are also exploited by middlemen who buy their produce at throwaway prices.
Most of the food prices in this country are just imaginations. It is just too much. If you calculate the cost of production, you find that the prices as we speak now should be lower.
Speaking during the launch of the Food and Agriculture Organization Country Programming Framework, the Ministry of Agriculture says it is rolling out initiatives that could solve this. For starters, the ministry is calling for a change of the country's land policies, which they say are hurting the agricultural sector.
Instead of each and everybody getting his piece, let us inherit by transforming the ownership even into companies that jointly owned by the beneficiaries of the inheritance, so that land remains one. It can be utilized as one.
The ministry is also focusing on minimizing post-harvest losses to boost food supply. As it stands, Kenya loses up to 50% of its produce after harvest due to poor storage methods. The ministry is also mapping out the entire value chain to ensure everyone makes fair profits. Perhaps the most groundbreaking move by the ministry will be the interplay between the warehouse receipting system that allows farmers to access loans with produce in NCPB stores and the commodities exchange that will allow farmers to trade their commodities directly to buyers. This will allow them to bypass middlemen and get better returns while reducing the final cost of products.
If we are not able to increase the revenue of the farmer, whatever cost we decrease in terms of cost of productivity will be not good enough for the farmer to continue their job.
Adelaide Changole, KTN Business.
The government is encouraging more investors to set base in the country. This follows the launch of the Toyota Kenya Business Park in Nairobi. The park is expected to offer more job opportunities to Kenyans, as well as technical know-how to motor engineers. Philip Keitani witnessed.
The rising cases of insecurity in the country have dimmed Kenya's attractiveness to investors, with many opting to take their investments elsewhere. As such, the unveiling of the new Toyota Kenya Business Park and Toyota Kenya Academy comes as a welcome relief to the country's dented image.
We appreciate your choice to invest in Kenya and encourage you and your company to continue in the same spirit. In this context, I wish to assure you of the support of both my government and the Kenyan people in these endeavors.
Once open in October 2014, the Academy will provide direct employment opportunities while developing skills and training to young people from Kenya and across the region.
Over the years, we have trained hundreds of mechanics through our Toyota apprenticeship scheme.
The success of these projects will depend on quality of human resources.
Toyota Kenya says it will also partner with the Uwezo Fund, the Technical University of Kenya, and the National Youth Service to provide technical support and knowledge to youth seeking knowledge in the fields that Toyota Tsushu operates.
One of the biggest beneficiaries out of this fantastic work that Toyota Group is doing is the small and medium-sized enterprises, and the training facility that you have seen, which is being launched today, is actually going to play very well in alignment with what your government has done in making the necessary commitment to building capacity at different levels to enable our country to succeed going forward.
So far, Toyota Kenya has employed 600 Kenyans, with the number expected to rise as more operations at the business park take shape. Philip Keitani, KTN Business.
I didn't know a president can actually ride a bike. That's quite something. And in other stories making business headlines today, the Britam bond is oversubscribed as Airtel signs a deal to sell Apple devices in the Kenyan market.
Britam's just concluded corporate bond has attracted bids worth 7.4 billion shillings. These are 147% of a subscription, with the bond targeting to raise 3 billion shillings. The fund manager will exercise its green shoe option and accept 6 billion shillings. Money raised through the bond will go into expansion plans as well as fund its new property development business. The bond will be listed at the Nairobi Securities Exchange at the end of this month. Elsewhere, mobile app developers now have a chance to transform their ideas into sustainable income-generating sources. This is after Safaricom launched the second edition of App With Challenge, a competition that will identify and develop successful early-stage mobile technology companies.
Right, so that's how we wrap up business tonight. My name is Boni Tunya, but not before I leave you with a financial market review coming up next.
Good evening and a very warm welcome to KTN Sports Today. I'm Lane Washira. Well, it took threats from the Commonwealth Games Kenyan team to receive their overseas allowances from the Kenyan government. The athletes ended their go-slow at the Kasarani Stadium, where they have been camping and will now leave for the Commonwealth Games at their scheduled times. The cycling team, however, is facing a different challenge altogether. 4 cyclists were dropped from the team right before their scheduled departure yesterday.
Have a good one. See you tomorrow.
These have been the scenes at the Commonwealth Games residential training camp at the Moi International Sports Centre, Kasarani. Athletes have been awaiting their overseas allowances. The threat to boycott the games, however, paid off as they finally received half of their allowances on Wednesday afternoon. However, as most of the participants celebrate, 4 cyclists' hopes of representing the country at the Commonwealth Games for the first time hung in the balance. Doreen Musoliza is still trying to come into terms with her aborted trip in the last minute.
Accreditation ijaza tu pamoja na team, lakini sasa kuzileta tu kupewa kwa camp tulipewa tukiwa airport. So venye walikuwa na distribute yangu haikuwa.
What is shocking to many is how she was informed about her lack of accreditation. The team management waited for her to go through the required procedures at the airport only to shock her about her accreditation.
Nimesikia tu vibaya sana. Na ninaomba kwa wakati huu mchache ambao umebaki kama ninaweza saidiwa.
Visa haijapatikana bado, haijatoka. Ndio tunashindwa haijatokaje na tuli register sisi wote pamoja za team.
Caroline Evelyn Ondiege, an off-road cyclist, is also awaiting in anticipation as to what will become of her Commonwealth Games dream as she awaits a response from the National Olympic Committee.
Nasikia wakachukua bagi yangu wakafikisha airport, which means hata sijui nitaanzia wapi kushughulikia bagi yangu ndio nirudi nayo.
The dropped cyclists have been relocated to Kasarani from their Thika training base. The Kenya cycling chairman Julius Mwangi, who spoke to KTN on phone, says he has presented the cyclists' complaints to the National Olympic Committee. However, the Commonwealth Games Chief Executive Officer James Chacha says the cyclists were simply locked out due to late entries from the Cycling Association, adding that their fate lies with the Commonwealth Games Federation. And Karim Dahashu, 19 points were enough to lead his Egyptian side to a 55-52 victory over the University of Nairobi side Terra in the ongoing Africa University Games. Terra was low in the first quarter with Innocent Adagala and Dan Nyabuya failing to stop the Egyptians' attack that gave them a 12-17 advantage. The second quarter saw Kenya get back to the chase with Franklin Manyala playing a critical role as the homeboys took charge for a 17-10 lead to settle for 29-27 halftime score. Abdelaram Youssef's 7 points in a heavily contested third quarter was not enough for the Egypt side that trailed 18-14. And the half marathon race will headline the Kenya Communication Sports Organization Kikoso Games next month. The games will be held on August 10th in Eldoret. The games that will be supported by the Communication Authority of Kenya were launched in Nairobi today.
The registration of the marathon kicks off today, which is Wednesday, 16th July 2014, at all post offices across the country at a nominal fee of 100 Kenya shillings. Registration shall close on 6th August 2014. The winner, both men and women in their categories, will walk away with 250,000 Kenya shillings.
Eldoret, we are ready for you. We are ready to receive you online, and everything is going on well.
And the annual vehicle beauty pageant, the Concours d'Elegance, is synonymous with old cars entered by equally old participants. This year, however, 2 youngsters, actually siblings, will be entering for this September competition. 15-year-old Amy Wande and her 17-year-old brother Ted will be entering in the motorcycle categories. Amy will be entering a 1990 Honda CR80, which won the class last year in the hands of Andre Antoine. Her brother will be parading a Yamaha YZ125. That Yamaha was the runner-up in the class last year. 12 classes will be contested for this year.
Great. So on our big question tonight, we had asked you if you think the police recruitment exercise should be done afresh.
And here is the poll results. 86% of you say no, and only 14% of you seem to agree with that. Or rather, that it's the other way around. 86% of you say yes, and only 14% think that that exercise should not be repeated.
Chesoli Denny says yes, review the whole process and do it afresh, then prosecute somebody on corruption charges for once.
Nkosinathi Buthelezi says repeating the police recruitment exercise will be a waste of taxpayers' money. Let's work with what we have.
Tom Nyamwaro says it has always been the trend during this recruitment exercise. The mighty normally have their say.
Michael Wafula says, from government that has no respect for its constitution, it's no surprise that recruitment drive was fatally flawed.
Derek Dre says, yes, I know of a county where the governor showed up and said only the local tribe is valid for recruitment.
And Amos finally Koske says, yes, it was corrupt, free and unfair. Those without money were not considered.
We thank you for being part of this bulletin and, of course, answering our big question. And on that note, we wrap up KTN Prime. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. I'm Linda.
And I'm Ben Kitili. Good night from the KTN News Center.